studios, because the studios didn't understand what this film was about, so they kept saying, well, what's real and what isn't? And I said, when you see Santa Claus, there is no Santa Claus. It's actually Ed Asner in a Santa Claus outfit. And they said, well, yeah, but what about who's the actress who plays your sidekick? And I said, that ain't no actress. That's Lenny Badpenny, Von Eckhart-Manzoni, who is our chief of investigations. Most of the shots were candid because she's a lousy actress. And it's true. And are brilliant at undercover work. And reluctantly did not want to be on camera because she was, as she said, ungoogleable. But here she is, and I'm glad she is on camera. But she's, and someone did ask me, by the way, if she really did put a camera in my hat. Hold this. If you can see the light, this is the, oops. The camera. I don't know if the light's coming. Yeah. See, but it's hard. Yeah, right. So we did that. Anyone makes $1,000 donation to the Palast Investigative Fund, tax deductible, gets the hat with the camera.
KPFK crew, please come on down. Leslie, Adam,
Possible.
Yes. Thank you. How many people?
John Crumshow, host of Politics or Pedagogy. Greg was on my show a few times. I don't know if you heard the show, but he came in, ran into the studio, and took his hat off. It was great.
I want everyone to speak because you hear the voices, but you don't see the faces. So I want to now get the voice and the face.
I'm Adam Rice. I host Music to Resist By, and these are a few of our friends from our new shows. This is the Geek Radio Show, and
Leslie.
Yeah, my boss.
Leslie, our general manager of KPFK, thank you so much. Thank you for bringing me home. And this is the theater I grew up in. I lived down the street. And you saw that. That was where I lived, at 8413 Webb down the street. And this theater, which was a different building, and your feet stuck to the floor with all the goo and who knows what. And this was not the NoHo, what do they call it? The NoHo Arts District. It was the NoHo Downers District. Down the street was the Uppers District. And that's how I grew up. But that's still down there. It just got pushed down to where I grew up, down near I grew up in the ass end of Los Angeles next to the sewage plant. So that's right down the street. But because it's a few blocks
And the world away.
Yeah, long distance from there to here. But I'm here to tell that story. And they took away the GM plant. They took away the houses, or they let us keep the crappy houses I grew up in. They give us a mobile, you get your mobile home. You lost your house, you got your mobile home to live in, as you saw. They took away your jobs, but they couldn't do that unless they took away your vote. So now, we're here to do something about it. So I just want to mention one thing. What happened to Jevinar? Oh, there he is. Come on down, Jevinar, from Dayton. And we'll answer your questions. But first, I want to mention something. You saw just before he died on the ice. Just before he died on the ice, Etok, told, you heard what he told me, which is, this is destruction in progress, and you are the witness to this destruction. So what are you going to do about it? So here's what you're going to do about it. You're told to turn off your cell phones, turn them on. and you're going to do a couple things. One, you're going to tweet out and Facebook out like now that you saw this film and that everyone that you know ought to see it, if you think they ought to, unless you're just standing up to stretch. And I appreciate that. You have no idea. And I would also say that then you're going to sign up at gregpalast.com, because this isn't a movie, it's a movement, okay? And it doesn't have a nice ending because it didn't end. It's still going on. We still have a lot of work to do. We still have a lot of work to do. And it's not that nothing's changed. Bill Gallegos was saying last night from Communities for a Better Environment that, the complexion of California has literally changed as Mexicanos and other Latinos have forced their way to the ballot box. It makes a difference, okay? Now, what else you can do? There's a petition there by the Congressional Black Caucus on my site. Alcee Hastings, the dean of the caucus, has called for, based on my Rolling Stone articles and the film, called for a full investigation of crosscheck. He says, not voter suppression. You steal my car, you haven't suppressed my car. This is vote theft. And he says, I was a federal judge and I can see a criminal conspiracy when I see one. It's not about just voter suppression. This is a crime that's happening. These guys are criminals. The billionaires behind them are the big men who are making the money off, turn vote theft into profit center. Now, sign that petition. The day after his 80th birthday, he walked over to the Justice Department with the petition, with his letter, and a copy of my article from Rolling Stone. And rather than put a stamp on it, he walked over and walked into the office of the Attorney General and put it into her hand so she couldn't say she didn't get it. So the least you can do is sign it and back him up. Now, the other thing you're going to do, the book, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy, which was #1 in LA for over a year, but that was a dozen years ago. I have a sequel to it called The Best Democracy Money Can Buy, A Tale of Billionaires and Ballot Ban. It's the same name as the movie. It's brilliant cross marketing, but whatever, the important thing is that my publisher objected. I said, yeah, but I have to have the same name as the movie. And get that book. Get 2 copies, one for someone you love to share with and one for someone you hate to make them unstupid. And it's very readable, and it has, and especially, and if the words are too difficult, in the middle there's a 44-page wonderful comic book by the brilliant Ted Rall, who was very grateful for this work because he'd just been fired by the LA Times for the cartoons and columns he wrote attacking LAPD brutality, and they fired him. And, I hope you're not applauding that they fired him. But anyway, we gave it, so he has a beautiful job. No? Anyway, so now we're gonna have some questions. So you're gonna go and get a couple of books. I'll sign all of them. Ms. Badpenny will sign them. We'll be out there. We will, and there was a DVD coming. You're gonna get that out. We have another rest of the week here. And because there's a couple seats empty, but they've all been sold. It's been nothing but sellout crowds. So we've been asked if we could extend our run so the theater can make some more popcorn money. Yes, we will. We're working out the details now. But please, we have at least through the week. Tell your friends to come get the DVD. We're going to San Francisco and DC and Portland and Seattle and San Francisco next week. So look at gregpalast.com for the information where we're going. And if you have people in other cities where it isn't there yet, we have an arrangement. We're expanding to about 100 cities. We're looking for your suggestions, and we'll get there. What? Are we? Okay, here's a question.
Can you go anywhere in the South to show this?
Can I go anywhere in the South without a disguise? Yeah, well, this is the South sometimes too. I would say yes. In fact, if we are trying to get also people to donate at gregpalast.com, in particular to set up screenings where it's less commercially viable, we've been asked to to be the opening of the Selma Film Festival for Black Lives Matter. Selma is asked to come down. So if you can help out, and we can, yes, we're just asked to go to Atlanta, where our guest, the speaker, will be Martin Luther King III. So where do you want to go? Why, you had a place in the South you want to go? No, so yeah, especially in the South. In fact, we were just in Sarasota last week in Catherine Harris's district. I invited her to come. She didn't. I don't know, she was busy. Any questions for your KPFK heroes, including Jerry Quickly, for Devin? Jevin, I'm mixing your names. Jevin Lamar. And so all of us. Any questions?
I don't have a question. This voter suppression, this goes back a long time. Right after the civil rights movement, the Nixon administration, they had something called the Southern Strategy right after, in 1972 was it, and that started a lot of this voter suppression.
I wish it started with just the Nixon and Southern strategy. What was interesting about the Southern strategy, remember the Ku Klux Klan was part of the Democratic Party. And so when John Kennedy switched that, there's a long story. One day I'll have to write this up, but I'm not going to the whole thing. But, the black vote saved John Kennedy, who was going to lose. Martin Luther King, I'll tell you, take me 2 minutes. You ought to hear this story. Martin Luther King Sr. endorsed Richard Nixon, an old friend of his, because the Republicans were the party of Lincoln, and Nixon's running mate said they'd put the first black cabinet member into Nixon's cabinet. So the Republicans and Nixon were the pro-civil rights party. But then Martin Luther King Jr., against Daddy King's advice and everyone's advice, decided he was going to start a series of marches before the election. In Georgia, he was arrested for not having changed from an Alabama license plate, even though he'd moved to Georgia. And so once he was arrested and sentenced to 6 months in prison for not changing his license plate, they knew they were going to kill him. They were going to lynch him in prison. So Daddy King called Nixon, his buddy, said, "Save my son's life." And Nixon said, "Well, it's a campaign. I got busy. I got a lot of things to do." So then Coretta King called Bobby Kennedy, because they knew the Kennedys, they didn't trust them much because they were Catholics, and were very concerned. But they said, this is a desperate move. So she called up Bobby Kennedy and said, "You gotta save my husband's life. They're gonna kill him." And they had just taken him through the middle of the night, upstate to the prison in rural Georgia. And King himself was assuming he was going to be lynched along the way. He said he's the first person to ever be happy to end up in a rural Georgia prison. When he saw the lights of the prison, he was still alive. But so Bobby called up his brother and said, "Have to save King Jr." So Kennedy called up some Southern governors and said, "Well, I gotta, what can we do here?" And they said, "You save that nigga, and you lose our state." That meant Georgia, Mississippi, Louisiana, and maybe more. And so Kennedy told his brother, call the judge. And so Bobby called the judge and said, "I'm paying the bail for Martin Luther King Jr." And the judge said, "I haven't set bail." And Bobby, remember his family owned the Democratic Party, and Bobby said, "Yeah, you just did." And they freed King. And the next day, they began printing 500,000 pamphlets by Daddy King, saying he had switched, that there was the story of the heartless politician, that is Nixon, versus the senator with a heart, John Kennedy. And the result was that Kennedy lost Louisiana, Georgia, Mississippi. When I say he lost them, the Democrats won, but the electors wouldn't vote for him at the Electoral College. Okay? But surprisingly, suddenly there was a huge shift in the black vote in Philadelphia, in Chicago, in Detroit. And to everyone's surprise, Kennedy won Illinois, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, and the presidency. And that's the real story of that presidency. And Nixon made a vow. So the Democrats gave up Jim Crow. And Nixon said, come on in. And Lee Atwater, working for George H.W. Bush, said, famously, when they came up with the Southern strategy, well, you can't say nigger, nigger, nigger anymore. We use words like urban, crime, and that's what we can say, and everyone knows. And that's a Southern strategy. But unfortunately, vote suppression goes back to before the Republic started. So it just changes its form. And we never have to stop going over the bridge. I'm sorry I gave you these long stories. I'll keep them all shorter. That story about King was given to me by Martin Luther King III, and that research, I'll give him credit, was the great investigative researcher Darrow Palast, my son. So anyway, questions for Jevin or anyone? Go, sir?
I just, I want to thank the nice lady that gave me the extra ticket, because apparently it looks like somebody may have committed movie ticket fraud to get in and see a movie about voter fraud.
Yeah, we had thank you for all coming and supporting, especially
My
KPFK.
second comment is, people kind of think because this is a democratic city and state, that those kind of things aren't happening here, but there's a lot happening here, very similar to what's in that movie, right in this city. You know.
Yeah, I
There's a lot of
know.
there's a lot of dead people voting, and the government just passed a bill to make it even easier for those criminals to do that. You know.
Well, I think one of the things that's happened, if you look in the book, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy, the sequel, Tale of Billionaires and Ballot Bandits, sadly, we have a lot of chapters about Democrats and Hillary Clinton and the Clintstones and their billionaires. Blasphemer! Yes, it is blasphemy. That's what I specialize in. And so, and obviously, and I wrote a few things, did some analysis of the primary election in the Democratic Party. And I won't go into the details of that, but if you go to my website, you'll find some things. And you'll also find some information about my questioning that in the Washington Post, which had 2 full articles attacking Greg Palast when they said a highly respected journalist, Greg Palast, lent his name to conspiracy theories that Bernie Sanders may have actually won California. And I don't lend my name, I put my name down. Unfortunately, the Democrats specialize in suppressing or stealing the votes of minority members, because Democrats, the issue is always in the primaries, and so they go after the more vulnerable voters. The worst suppression is in, for example, the Hispanic Democrats, like Bill Richardson. That's a Hispanic Democrat, by the way. He suppressed the vote of the Hispanic Democrats, the poor ones in New Mexico, because he couldn't win a primary if Latinos were allowed to vote. So this is a problem that we have in both parties, both aiming at removing the votes of vulnerable people. And so this will continue on. It's never, I'm sorry, it's never going to stop, but that gives us something to do, which is keep marching on the bridge. So any questions? 2 more questions, maybe? Yes, sir.
Yeah, great.
Hey. Oh, and may I introduce one of the greatest journalists of all times.
Oh, yeah.
Stephen France. Okay, right.
Okay, well, my question was, since the cross-check, Stephen France, since the, Dr. Stephen France, if you will, since the cross-check system is being investigated, but can it save anything for this election, or is it, that's my question.
Yes, can save things for this election. There was that issue of caging. We've seen many things where A lot of it's exposure, and a lot of it has to do with them implementing things at the last minute, and they reverse them. It also, something else, we get the word out, we stop it from spreading, but also something else happens. We open up, for example, if people learn how to protect themselves. You go at the back of Billionaires and of Best Democracy Money Could Buy, is it says 7 ways to beat the ballot bandits. We think of it as a way to protect your vote, kind of a ballot condom. So one of the things it says is check your registration. Every state has an online check of your registration. Weirdly, almost all these stupid methods of removing people from the voter rolls are defeated simply by re-registering, which is kind of odd. But their system isn't set up they don't bother with you if you're an active person. And you're literally, one of the ways that if you're cross-checked, they don't mark you as a double voting criminal, because then you could say, that's not me. They mark you as inactive. But if you're active, that removes you from the inactive list. And active means you went on the site and re-registered to make sure that you are on those rolls with your name. I checked my California registration to show people how easy it was to do, and it said no such registrant. And so I re-registered in time for the primaries. So it just anyone can get wiped out by this stuff, and you can act. So there's a lot of things you can do at the last minute. And also, it's hard to get people focused on these issues, except at election time, so it then affects the next election. Just an endless fight. So can it completely stop it right now? No. Can people take action to protect themselves? Yes. Questions? This lady here.
Hi. Could you lend me some insight on how to schmooze and finesse myself into soirees? I feel like you're the guy for that.
That's the gal for it. By the way, all these things are for real, just so you know. I mean, not put on. It does take, now ours are done, I hate to say it's very expensive and difficult. There's ways to do it. Yes, I recommend it. It's difficult. It's not done in U.S. journalism anymore. I brought this over from BBC and stuff, and they're scared. There's legal problems. It's expensive. You could get shot. In fact, one of the things I was worried about, when I was going after the Vultures second time, it was at his Marco Rubio fundraiser, which meant that I had Secret Service. So I had to make sure Rubio was out of there, because if I made a move that was wrong, no one's going to complain when the Secret Service, takes someone out. So I had to take journalists' lives matter, but not too much. Believe it or not, we actually for the jump on the ice cream social in Wichita, we actually flew in war cameraman and correspondent Daniel Myers from Paris to do that. It takes talent and guts. To get the singer jump, the second one, we brought in Rick Raleigh, who was nominated for the Academy Award for Dirty Wars, a war correspondent with luckily for me, a lot of PTSD, which makes him want to go into dangerous situations. And he's been under fire endless times. And so he was brought in, and he said, we use iPhone 6s so that they can't tell. But then he's holding the camera like he just won the Academy Award, and that's how we got caught. I say, wait, you're filming? No, he says, no, I'm just taking a. No, he says, you're filming. And then the galoots got me. They carry pictures. The singers guys carry pictures of me, and they do. And so that's harder for me. My disguise is pretty crappy, I admit. I should use some bubble gum on my bald head. But so work on disguise. That's when you need Bad Penny did not do that one. She really works very hard at making sure it's done right and it's practiced, and we get serious professionals doing this stuff, so no one gets hurt or gets arrested. That didn't stop me. I did get arrested in Azerbaijan, not a place you want to get arrested, believe me. but you'll read the book Vulture's Picnic, you'll find out how I got out of that one. But luckily she gave me, before I went there, they took our cameras and our film, but they didn't take my pen. But just before I got on the plane, she handed me one of those little James Bond cameras in a pen, and they let me keep the pen. So I got my film out of there after I was arrested. So that's how it works. Ask her for the info and how you do it, because we'd love to have volunteers who are crazy. That's important. Crazy is a big part of it. And you know what else takes courage? I mean, Jevin can tell you just things like, you had this wonderful gentleman, Donald Webster, and you think we just show up and your name's on the list and the people will talk to us. Explain how that works.
Well, hello everyone. I actually got the job to go around door to door and let people know that they were accused of voting twice. So by doing that, you get a lot of mixed emotions from these people. They think I'm some type of scammer. I'm lying. I'm a bill collector. They were slamming doors in my face. So I had to keep going and keep pushing, because this is such a strong subject, because what's wrong is wrong and what's right is right. And I think people of color should be able to vote. Like, we should be able to vote. We all bleed the same blood, so we all connected in some type of way. So when I was doing that, it was just like, it was just crazy. So it was a lot going on. I met a lot of people. I met some great people, and I met some really mean people, some really strict older people that were not having it, didn't want me at their doorstep. So it was a lot, but it was good. It turned out to be a great film. So I'm glad I was a part of it.
And we'll have Jevin. And one thing I do want to do is, when you go over that bridge, you always have to be. The fight doesn't end, and we don't have the ability to put up the sound, but for the broadcast version, we have a tremendous track by Jevin called Warriors. So I want you to hear that. So you know what you can do? That's a sneaky way to get you to my site. We'll put it up so that you can listen to it and download Warriors, okay? One more question, then we're going to go, and this gentleman back there to sign and talk outside, all of us. Yes, sir?
Yes, I wanted to know the sovereignty of KPFK.
You want to know the
Financial sovereignty of KPFK.
the financial solvency of KPFK? Here's our general manager.
We are, as always, on the edge. What can I tell you? We are not yet out of the woods, but thanks to all of you, we are surviving, and financially, right now, we are one of the 2 soundest stations in the Pacifica network, maybe the soundest, which isn't saying a whole lot, okay? But thank you for asking, and thank you for caring. And I want to thank all of you, while I've got this microphone, for being here for this benefit performance for KPFK. Please tell your friends not only about this wonderful screening, but about the wonderful gift from Greg in support of our radio station. Your radio station, KPFK.